this is John. Here I am in my field after about 40 millimeters of rain that have fallen over the last few days. So as you saw a little while ago, this was seriously stressed. It had been stressed for about 3 weeks of hot, dry weather, and the maize looked really miserable. Now, I'm not saying the maize is looking great now, but it certainly has recovered. And what's interesting to me, this little field here, I had interplanted last season in the maize velvet bean, and you can see the velvet bean has reseeded itself. There's not a lot in here, but there is some, and I'm very happy about that. So this regen farming, it requires a whole different mindset, a whole new way of thinking about what a field should look like, what crops should look like, and what kind of money you would expect to make out of it. Now, obviously, we want to make a profit out of this. We want to produce grain for our livestock. We want to have fodder for our livestock. So the objectives are the same as conventional farming, but the way you do it and the way it looks is obviously very different. And I think most of us have been brought up with an understanding or a belief that our fields should be absolutely clean of weeds and the bare soil should be very visible. Now, is a weed really a weed? And how do we deal with weeds is a big question. There was a book that I read that was encouraging us to look at weeds in a very different light. That they're not necessarily weeds as such, as in terms of plants growing where you don't want them to grow. And this guy was arguing that actually these weeds can be very beneficial, and I came across an article the other day talking about bidens and tagetes. So here you've got tagetes, and of course we're very familiar with bidens. And both these weeds have anti-nematodal properties in their root exudates. So is that something that we can consider as useful? That even though they may be very competitive in this environment of trying to grow maize, they can actually be benefiting our soil somehow and the soil health. So that's one of the reasons why I'm reluctant to use any chemicals in here. So if you look at the maize in this little section, at least it's growing quite well. It's quite advanced compared to the weeds. Of course, we've got this little difficult plant here, watergrass, nutgrass. I don't know if it has any beneficial characteristics that we can claim on it, but in this scenario, when I look at the maize, and if I top dress this maize and get it moving and point apply that top dressing so the maize is particularly benefited from it, I think we can get a crop out of this. That's my feeling. I know it's not going to be the best crop that you could probably get out of here, but I think it's worth a try. I'm happy with all this mulch cover here. This is going to help for soil water conservation and the microbiome in the soil. You know, if you look in here and you pull this away, see how moist it is still on the surface. It breaking down nicely, providing organic matter into the soil. So yeah, it looks untidy, it looks messy, it looks scary. But like I say, we need to have a different perspective, a different way of thinking when it comes to this regen farming. And you might notice that there are 3 or 4 rows of maize and then a blank row, and then another 4, actually this is 5 rows here, and then a blank row. So what we've done on these blank rows, we had planted brachiaria grass in one and greenleaf desmodium in the other, but we haven't had a very good take, so we're actually replanting it with this wet soil now. And I will also be doing some vegetatively, because I really want to establish this alternate strips of legume and grass for stalk borer and armyworm control, and of course for fodder when we come to the winter. So it's a very different way of looking at things, and sometimes I think I'm absolutely crazy, because quite honestly I don't want to put any more herbicide in here. I did put Roundup on at planting, and it's given the maize a bit of a head start. Of course the dry weather set the maize back, but it also set the weeds back. But I don't want to put any more chemicals in this field other than some top dressing. I'm going to come in here next week, in the next few days, with top dressing. I want to give this maize a bit of a kick so that it can outperform the weeds. So there you are, friends. Thanks for watching. It's a scary situation, but I'll keep you updated on the progress.